Hey everyone, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria and welcome to another video. I just finished having lunch. Here's the aftermath of unlimited dates for lunch. I just eat as much as I want until I get full and then I stop. So, and I do that at least 3 times a day. And it keeps your body nice and lean. I show my belly because just gotta show the results. Okay, so I wanted to make a follow-up video to the video I did yesterday comparing my unlimited carbohydrate diet to High Carb Hannah's calorie density diet and our results body-wise. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I'll leave it in a link in the description box of this video. We'll go to the park in a little bit, okay? Okay. So I wanted to talk about this concept of metabolic damage, adaptive thermogenesis, and the yo-yo diet cycle that people get trapped in and why. So I was a victim of this myself. The diet industry sells the false science that to consumers that you need to restrict your calories in order to lose weight. Now this method works. It's worked for High Carb Hannah, it's worked for me in the past, it's worked for most people that do it. They lose weight, they restrict their calories, they lose weight. The catch is because you create this metabolic damage, because you're losing weight at the expense of your metabolism, meaning that you're lowering your metabolic rate by restricting your calories, so you're sacrificing an aspect of your health, you end up having to pay that metabolic debt back. And it's usually in the form of health issues as well as weight gain. Because the body gets to the point, and this is different for everybody, because I know some people who have calorie restricted for decades. And there's some people who can't do it at all, that's good. That's your body saying, hey, I want to eat, I want to function optimally, I want to be alive. Because that's what food does for us. It gives us the energy to live our lives. And when we don't fuel ourselves, we start to create imbalances in our system, in our hormones. We decrease our body's ability to create energy efficiently because it has to seek out glucose elsewhere, usually in the form of fat or protein that's stored within our body. And you know, that sounds ideal. Oh, my body's gonna burn fat if I'm not taking in carbs or I'm not taking in enough calories. You have to have the two in order to get the weight loss from the calorie deficit, from the keto diet, from the low carb diet, from these diets. But it is completely unsustainable, and you're doing so at the risk of your health. So how do you get out of this cycle? Let's say you've been a chronic dieter for years and you're ready to call it quits. You know, this is the advice that I'd be giving to High Carb Hannah. This is the advice that I'd be giving to anyone who asked me this question. This is the advice that I wish I gave myself initially, because it is hard. It's one of the hardest things to do, because we, as a society, especially a Western industrialized society, we put an emphasis on being thin. It is more attractive. And I believe it's because we are naturally going to be lean when following our ideal human diet, a high carb, low fat, plant-based, vegan, unlimited calorie diet. We are lean. Like, that is the ultimate outcome. That is what is standard. That is what is healthy for our bodies. And that's good. That level of leanness is going to be dependent on your sex and as well as your age and as well as your genetics. But everybody can be lean. Everybody can be a healthy BMI. Now, when you break the yo-yo diet cycle, you're going to gain weight. And that is the hardest thing for most people to accept. I know for myself, it was the hardest thing for me to accept, and it was so hard to undo the mental programming of thin is healthy, thin is healthy, thin is healthy, because I was thin, I was very thin, and I was not healthy. And like I said, when you calorie restrict, no matter what form, what diet, you're doing so at the expense of your health and your metabolism. A really good book about this science is the Minnesota Starvation Experiment by Dr. Ansel Keys. This book is very good. You can get it on Amazon Kindle, and it explains what happens when the human body is starved and the recovery process that must be endured. And the recovery process is going to be highly dependent on your genetics, your age, your fitness level, how long you've been starving yourself, what kind of diets you've done. For myself, it took a really long time to get on the right path. For the time I've been vegan, high carb vegan, because I've been vegan for a long time, but I just wasn't consistently vegan when I first started because I didn't know how. It was a really new concept, and that was back when I was in my late teens. But when I was 24, I committed to being high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan, all in. I gained 60 pounds, and those 60 pounds stuck around for what felt like a really long time. But in reality, it was about 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years before my weight started coming back down to normal. When my weight came back down to what's normal for me. Now, not a lot of people are going to be willing to go through that. And that is the trick with the yo-yo dieting, that in order to get out of it, you have to gain the weight. And it's going to stick around, and it's going to feel unnatural, and it's going to feel like you want to go back to calorie restricting, fasting, low carb eating, because that's what's worked for you in the past. But that's the cycle. The cycle is restrict, binge, but it's not really binging, it's just eating because you've starved yourself. Restrict, eat. Restrict, eat. Every time you restrict, you lose a little. Every time you eat, you gain. Every time you restrict, you lose a little. Every time you eat, you gain. And that restrict, gain, eating, restrict, lose, eat, gain. The restricting gets smaller and the gaining gets bigger every time you do it, because it's a survival adaptation mechanism of the body to stay alive. We're programmed to store fat in famine situations, and that is a human survival mechanism. Now, like I said, in order to get out of it, you have to go through the eat gain. And then the trick is to stay in the eat gain so your metabolism that tanks from restricting can come back up, and it meets the eating and the gaining, and then it levels out. But I've done some extensive videos on this concept of metabolic damage, adaptive thermogenesis in the past, and the information is still the same. When you restrict, you lower your metabolism, you lose weight. When you eat, you gain weight, and your metabolism comes back up to meet that. And this is why it's so important to do a high carb, low fat diet, because the fat we eat is the fat we wear. Every gram of ingested fat that we consume goes to body fat storage. The faster our metabolism is, the less that fat is going to make an appearance. It's actually good for people who are needing to gain weight, or children who have a very fast metabolism, to eat more fat in their diet, because their growth rate, their metabolism, can handle it. Guys, I'm trying to make a video, okay? Leave her alone. Mom life. So, to wrap this video up, in order to break the yo-yo diet... Hi! Okay, thank you. Hi! Okay, the yo-yo diet cycle, you have to go through the gain in order to bring the metabolism back up to meet that plateau, so that you can plateau. Now, if you're someone like Stephanie Buttermore and you're just eating whatever, your weight's going to continue to go up because you're not monitoring how much fat and protein, because protein can get stored as fat when it's consumed in excess as well, that you're not monitoring that in your diet, and you're, you know, matched with like a lowered metabolism, you get, that's how people get really big. Slow metabolism mixed with too much fat and protein in the diet. So in order to meet that plateau, in order to eventually get back to normal, get back to that lean, healthy, fit body, you have to match the eating with a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet. Eat as much as you want, but just keep the fat and the protein low. But you want the fat in particular to be low, 5% or less of the daily calorie intake, or 20 grams or less per day when you're talking about grams. Anyways, if you have any questions about this concept, please let me know in the comment section. I know it can be hard to go through the weight gain, but the rewards that you reap from doing so it's so worth it. And what's your other option? To go back to the yo-yo diet merry-go-round? Don't do it. It's completely unsustainable, and it's a trap. It keeps you trapped. It keeps you a trapped consumer, subject to, you know, the will of the dieting industry. Okay, that's it for this video. Leave any comments or questions down below. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.